You know that feeling when you are trying to optimize your life and you somehow end up with like 3 different calendar apps?
Oh, yeah. And like a staggeringly complicated morning routine.
Right, and just a towering stack of productivity books sitting right by your bed. You, as someone who loves learning and relentlessly refining your daily routine, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
We all do, honestly. It's that constant drive to absorb new frameworks and, systems to try and build this perfectly efficient, frictionless life.
Exactly. But I want you to imagine a community that believes the ultimate life hack, like the absolute pinnacle of human optimization, actually means throwing all of that directly in the trash.
Wow. Just completely tossing it.
Completely. And not just deleting the apps, but stripping away absolutely everything man-made. We are talking about abandoning religious rituals, modern schedules, legal statutes.
Basically, every metric of success we currently measure ourselves by, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of it, just to unlock what they call total human perfection.
Which is fascinating because, I mean, we operate on this default assumption that progress requires addition, you know?
Right, like adding more stuff.
Exactly. We solve problems by adding tools, adding habits, adding new layers of societal structure or technology. But the framework we are looking at in today's deep dive proposes something entirely foreign to the modern
It
mind.
really is.
It's optimization through radical absolute subtraction. It treats subtraction not as a loss, but actually as an advanced technology for living.
And the source material for our deep dive today gives us the exact blueprint for that technology. It's this really intriguing 2010 manifesto by a figure named Shu Feng.
Yeah, stick to the way of nature, the culture building of the second home.
Right, which is also referred to as the new oasis for life. And we are zeroing in specifically on part 7 of this document today.
Which is packed with details. It outlines 8 core principles for a community that is attempting to fuse ancient philosophy with this radically minimalist, rule-free way of living.
And the members of this community, they actually refer to themselves as Chanyuan Celestials. So our mission today is to extract the core wisdom from this document, right? And just see how this utopian blueprint challenges our modern reliance on complexity.
I love that mission, because to truly grasp how this second home operates, we have to look first at its physical reality,
Uh-huh.
which is entirely defined by what they actively refuse to build. It's a profound shift in how humans relate to their physical environment.
Because Yu Feng's blueprint states that everything, like every single phenomenon in nature, is the cell and word of the greatest creator.
Exactly. And because of that specific premise, the universe itself is considered the palace hall.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the universe is the palace hall, it means the community absolutely forbids the construction of churches, temples, monasteries, basically any man-made places of worship.
Right, no exceptions. They explicitly ban creating sculptures or carvings of the greatest creator, too.
It's essentially saying, like, why build a tiny, flawed replica of a temple when you are already standing inside the grandest temple imaginable?
That is a great way to put it.
It's like canceling your expensive, overcrowded gym membership because you've suddenly realized the entire planet is your gym. You just have to step outside your front door.
Yeah, that analogy hits the nail on the head regarding the physical space. And, the philosophy extends directly into their behavior as well.
How so?
Well, since the universe is the temple, traditional forms of worship become not just redundant, but almost insulting to the natural order. This framework just entirely spurns all external rituals.
Oh, wow. So no rituals at all.
None. There is no burning of incense, no
No.
offering of paper money, no kowtowing, and absolutely no animal or food sacrifices allowed.
Wow.
Gratitude has to emerge strictly from the depth of the heart, entirely unmediated by physical objects.
Okay, I have to push back a little on the motive here, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Is this genuinely profound theology, or is it just kind of the ultimate cost-saving measure for bootstrapping a commune?
That's a fair question.
Right, because think about the logistics of starting a new religion or a utopian society. Building a grand cathedral takes centuries. It takes immense wealth and specialized labor. Banning all buildings, icons, and physical sacrifices just makes starting the second home incredibly cheap and logistically effortless.
I see where you're coming from. And while it certainly does eliminate the massive overhead of monumental architecture, reducing it to just a cost-saving measure kind of misses the deep sociological mechanism at play here.
Okay, what's the mechanism?
This is really about a radical shift in human psychology and hierarchy. Think about what happens when a society builds a massive temple.
Well, they need people to run it, right?
Exactly. They immediately need a priestly class to manage it, guards to protect it, an entire economy to fund it. By removing the artificial monuments and the physical rituals, this framework flattens the social structure completely.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It forces humans to respect their immediate, unmanicured environment. The explicit mandate in the text is to blend in, do not damage, and share prosperity with nature.
Right, because if you believe a stone carving is sacred, you might, I don't know, blow up a mountain with dynamite just to harvest the stone to carve it.
Precisely. You destroy nature to worship nature, which makes no sense to them.
But if you believe the mountain itself is the literal word of the greatest creator, your behavior changes completely. You protect the mountain. You aren't distracted by a man-made symbol. You are engaging directly with the source material of reality.
And that engagement fundamentally changes how the Chinyuan celestials spend their time.
Right.
Because if a society isn't spending its decades hauling massive stones to build temples or preparing these elaborate multi-day religious festivals, an enormous amount of human energy is suddenly freed up.
Which brings us directly to how they structure their daily lives. And here's where it gets really interesting, because their daily rhythm is dictated solely by human biology and planetary rotation.
It's wild. It's a total factory reset on the human biological clock.
It really is. The manifesto actually states, quote, "Begin labor at the rise of the sun and stop at the setting of the sun." And then it introduces a concept that sounds almost alien to us today.
Oh, the eating and sleeping rule.
Yes. It says, have dinner when one feels hungry and go to sleep when one feels tired.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate uncoupling from the modern economy of artificial deadlines. I mean, there are no alarm clocks,
Sounds amazing.
no scheduled lunch breaks, no shift work. Even their holidays are completely stripped down.
Wait, they ban holidays?
They ban all man-made, politically driven holidays. They only celebrate days that are intrinsically connected to natural cycles, like the Spring Festival or the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Okay, but I have a massive practical pushback on this factory reset lifestyle.
Let's hear it.
Eating only when your stomach rumbles and sleeping the exact moment your eyes get heavy? That sounds like a beautiful vacation. But is it actually feasible for a functioning society?
It definitely raises some logistical red flags.
Right, like what happens when there is a community crisis? Let's say a vital wheat crop urgently needs harvesting because a severe storm is rolling in. Can you really just turn to your fellow community members and say, sorry guys, I'm feeling a bit sleepy, I'm gonna take a nap now, while the entire winter food supply just rots in the rain?
You are hitting on the exact reason utopian communes historically fail when they hit the harsh realities of agriculture.
Yeah, nature doesn't care if you're sleepy.
Exactly. However, Xu Feng's blueprint attempts to bypass this by completely rewiring the community's relationship with ambition and surplus.
Oh, so?
While the text explicitly mandates that members will not build luxury dwelling places, it says they will be thrifty in food, and crucially, they do not value objects difficult to obtain.
Optics difficult to obtain, okay.
Right, they actually ban wearing diamond rings and explicitly forbid seeking any shortcuts to wealth.
So this anti-hustle rhythm isn't just a license to be lazy. It's actually a direct biological consequence of refusing to participate in an economy of artificial scarcity.
Precisely. If you are only growing what you need to survive, and you are not trying to stockpile a massive agricultural surplus to sell on a market to buy luxury goods, the pace of life naturally decelerates.
Because you aren't chasing the surplus?
Right. The drive for objects difficult to obtain is what creates those artificial deadlines, the 80-hour work weeks, and the need to push through physical exhaustion.
That makes total sense.
If you remove the burning desire for the diamond ring or the luxury estate, you suddenly remove the need to fight your own biology. The storm might ruin some wheat, sure, but without the pressure to maximize yield for profit, the community accepts the natural loss, rather than breaking themselves to prevent it.
Wow, that is a really powerful mechanism. If you don't want the prize, you just don't have to run the race.
Exactly.
But, setting up this incredibly grounded, almost animal-like existence brings us to a massive contradiction in this blueprint, something that completely caught me off guard.
The mysticism aspect.
Yes, because we have established that they want to live as simply as wildlife, eating when hungry, sleeping when tired, yet they call themselves Chanyuan Celestials, and their stated ultimate goal is to reach the celestial island continent and elevate themselves into deity celestial beings or super celestial beings.
Right. And given those titles, you would naturally expect a group focused on becoming celestial deities to be steeped in profound mysticism.
Completely.
You'd expect them to be engaging in elaborate magic, channeling spirits, or practicing esoteric supernatural rituals.
That is exactly what you would expect. But the manifesto takes this sudden, shocking turn into strict, uncompromising scientific rationality.
It really does pivot hard.
It explicitly dictates that all actions must be based on scientific and objective laws, and all reasoning must be anchored in pure logic.
And it goes much further than just encouraging science. It implements an absolute foundational ban on superstition.
Which is wild for a group trying to become deities.
I know. The blueprint forbids communion with higher souls, speaking via deities, fortune-telling, expelling ghosts, and any form of wishery whatsoever. It actually bluntly warns members to keep a distance from ghosts and deities.
This is such a wild juxtaposition. It's like receiving your acceptance letter to Hogwarts, getting sorted into your magical house, and then on the very first day, Dumbledore stands up and announces that magic is strictly banned and you are only allowed to study astrophysics and accounting.
That is a hilarious but very accurate comparison.
But how does that work? How can a community whose ultimate aim is to transform into super celestial beings simultaneously outlaw all mystical practices? I mean, they're even forbidden from passing themselves off as reincarnations of Jesus or Buddha or wearing any special garments to signify spiritual status.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of Wifeng's philosophy,
Yeah.
it actually resolves that apparent paradox brilliantly.
Really?
Because within this specific framework, true enlightenment actually is objective reality.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, any form of magic, witchery, or superstition is viewed as an unnatural shortcut. Remember the earlier ban on seeking shortcuts for wealth?
Yes, the object's difficult to obtain.
Right. The exact same logic applies to the spiritual realm. Nature operates entirely on logic, physics, and scientific laws. Therefore, to align with the greatest creator, one must be fiercely logical and fact-based.
Ah, okay. So to attempt magic would be an arrogant attempt to break the rules of nature. Let's extend that Hogwarts metaphor a bit.
Let's do it.
It's like the universe is a massive, complex software program. The greatest creator is the original programmer, and the laws of physics are the source code.
I like where this is going.
Most mystical religions are trying to find cheat codes or install malware to bypass the system and get a quick miracle. But this blueprint argues that true mastery, becoming a celestial being, actually means studying the source code so deeply that you completely align with it.
That is a much more accurate way to visualize their rational mysticism. Magic implies the divine rules are flawed and need to be circumvented.
Right, like the rules aren't good enough for you.
Exactly. For the Chanyuan Celestials, observing the rules of nature is the divine practice. And by enforcing this, the community achieves something remarkable. It democratizes enlightenment.
Yes. And for you listening right now, someone who likely suffers from information overload and is frankly exhausted by gurus making baseless, pseudoscientific claims, there is a profound psychological comfort in this philosophy.
There really is.
You don't need to memorize a secret mystical mantra, you don't need to pay for an expensive spiritual retreat, and you don't need a mediator. Simply observing the factual, logical rules of reality is enough.
The text summarizes this perfectly by commanding members to be natural in everything and free from any affectedness.
Which means you don't need a special robe, a title, or a lineage to understand gravity or the changing of the seasons. You just need to observe the reality directly in front of you.
But that naturally introduces the most difficult problem any utopian community faces.
Oh, the governance issue.
Exactly. If a society has no religious dogma to fear no wrathful deities waiting to smite them, no ghosts to haunt them, no concept of hell to keep people in check, and only relies on an individual's logical alignment with physics, how do you actually govern?
Right. If physics replaces God, who replaces the police?
Precisely. We have to shift from personal behavior to societal governance, which in this second home means the radical politics of deregulation.
So how do they handle that?
To answer that, the manifesto leans heavily on ancient Chinese philosophy, specifically quoting a very famous passage from the Tao Te Ching.
What does it say?
It states, quote, "The more prohibitions there are, the poorer the people become. The sharper weapons there are, the greater the chaos. The greater the number of statutes, the greater the number of thieves."
Wow. So following that ancient logic to its extreme conclusion, the Chanyuan community possesses no weapons at all. No swords, no spears, no standing militia, and they implement no complex rules, no legal contracts, and no statutes. Everything is based simply on observing rules of nature, which just completely breaks down all man-made taboos.
That's the plan. The audacious claim here is that following this incredibly simple way of nature is the specific mechanism that leads to utopian eras they call the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world.
They really just refuse to set decrees, don't they?
They do. They actually actively discourage the learning of strange skills or cunning things. They operate on the profound trust that the overarching law of nature is entirely sufficient for perfect human governance.
So what does this all mean in practice? Because I have to be brutally honest here, it sounds incredibly idyllic, like an open world video game with zero enemies, no quest markers, and no rules where you just wander around in the sunlight.
It sounds peaceful.
But human nature is notoriously tricky, and frankly, often quite dark. Can completely removing laws genuinely prevent chaos? Or is this manifesto incredibly naive about human selfishness? Like, if you remove the laws against stealing, do people really just stop stealing?
This raises a really important question about the fundamental root causes of societal breakdown.
Hmm.
And it requires us to look at the mechanism of Taoist thought, specifically the concept of non-interference or Wu Wei.
Okay, unpack that for us.
This manifesto operates on a core philosophical assumption that completely inverts modern legal theory. In our modern world, we believe laws prevent conflict. We believe the fence prevents the trespasser.
Right, that's the whole basis of our society.
But Swifting's blueprint argues that the fence actually creates the trespasser.
Yeah.
Human conflict is caused by the accumulation of laws, borders, and weapons.
Because the moment you draw a line in the sand, human instinct is to step over it. The law creates the boundary that people then fight to defend or transgress.
Consider the mechanism of language and law. The moment a society invents the legal concept of exclusive private property, they simultaneously invent the concept of the thief.
Oh, wow, I never thought of it that way.
The text argues that cunning things and skills of technique create unnatural hierarchies, which inevitably breed inequality and envy. Statutes create legal loopholes, which create resentment. By removing the sharp weapons and the complicated statutes, the community aims to return to a state of absolute equilibrium.
It's removing the pressure cooker entirely, rather than just trying to build a stronger lid to contain the steam.
That is exactly the intent. And the manifesto uses a beautiful, evocative metaphor for this style of governance, describing the way of nature as the bright sunlight of spring and a fresh breeze.
A fresh breeze.
Yeah, it is supposed to feel simple, easy, and completely frictionless. The sociological hypothesis is that if everyone is eating when they are naturally hungry, sleeping when they are actually tired, desiring absolutely no luxury goods, and living without rigid property lines, the very motivation for crime, envy, and conflict completely evaporates.
It is the ultimate high-stakes test of human nature, isn't it?
It really is.
If you strip away the immense, crushing pressure cooker of modern society, the bills, the legal threats, the artificial timelines, the status symbols, do we naturally default to a fresh breeze of harmony? Or do we immediately descend into brutal tribal chaos?
Well, the manifesto firmly, optimistically believes we ascend. It predicts the way of nature will become brighter and brighter, more and more noble, and more perfect.
And that is the ultimate promise of this culture building. To achieve that perfect union between man and the universe, this text argues you don't need to construct grand cathedrals, you don't need to unlock magical supernatural powers, and you certainly don't need to draft thousands of pages of convoluted legal statutes.
No, not at all.
You just need observable facts, basic logic, sunlight, and a radical willingness to eat only when you're actually hungry.
It's incredibly simple, yet incredibly difficult for modern people to grasp.
Absolutely. Well, we have covered a massive amount of philosophical ground today, dissecting the profound mechanics of this deep dive into the second home culture. We have seen how they replace monumental architecture with the entire natural universe, completely avoiding the traps of religious hierarchy.
Right.
We have explored how they replace the exhausting hustle of modern economies with a biological factory reset, eliminating the anxiety of artificial scarcity. We unpacked how they merged the lofty desire to be a celestial being with incredibly strict scientific logic, democratizing enlightenment for anyone willing to observe physics.
Which is such a unique combination.
Yeah. And finally, we looked at how they govern not by adding police, but by stripping away every single law, border, and weapon, betting everything on the natural equilibrium of human beings.
It serves as a comprehensive, provocative blueprint for a completely different way of existing on this planet. It really challenges our most deeply held assumptions about human progress, showing a theoretical path where the ultimate perfection is achieved entirely through relentless subtraction rather than endless addition.
And even if you aren't planning to pack your bags, move to a remote oasis, and start your personal journey to becoming a super celestial being, This manifesto serves as an incredibly powerful mental palate cleanser.
Oh, for sure.
In our modern world of endless smartphone notifications, labyrinthine legalities, and just a relentless, exhausting hustle culture, the way of nature is a striking reminder of the power of ultimate simplicity. It forces us to pause and ask ourselves what we are actually building all these complex systems for.
And whether the tools we use to optimize our lives are actually the very things making us miserable.
Exactly. It strips away the deafening noise of modernity and asks us to evaluate with brutal honesty what is truly necessary for a fulfilling, harmonious human experience.
And that brings us right back to where we started.
It really does. We are all trying to optimize our lives, constantly adding new apps, adopting new morning routines, and trying to build the ultimate frictionless life hack. But I want to leave you with this lingering thought to ponder on your own today. If you woke up tomorrow morning and magically stripped away every single man made statue, every artificial holiday, and every single complicated routine from your life, would you finally feel totally liberated, or would you realize you have completely forgotten how to just exist naturally?